channel. So I was thinking about the early days of YouTube. You know, back when people used to make videos from their bedrooms, back when videos were like really grainy. Now I know the video quality on my videos is not great because I'm filming with my phone. I have an iPhone 8 Plus. There's a story attached to everything. So short detour to tell you the story. So my husband wants to buy me a phone. So he said we could go get a phone. We could go to the store today and get a phone. But you're going to have to transfer the things from this phone to that phone. And I can't transfer it because I have about 250 gigabytes of stuff on this phone. I have no idea where to put them if I give up this phone. So I'm holding on to something when something is being offered me, but I can't. So something's being offered me, but I have to open both hands to take it, right? But I'm holding on, so I can't take the new thing because I'm holding on to the old thing. But at some point, I'll figure out what to do for storage, and I'll be able to relinquish this phone and get a better phone. But until then, sorry about the grainy stuff. So yeah. But I was thinking about the old days of YouTube when people used to film their videos about their life, their journeys, from their bedrooms, from their beds. Usually used to watch some of those videos. Now we film videos in front of our books. It's so awesome. Back in those days, I had maybe 1/100th of the size of my book collection. I remember when I only had a few books. When I started BookTube, I had probably less than 20 books in my apartment. Oh, how far we've come. But yeah, we're here today for a Friday Reads kind of catch up, kind of update. So I don't know how much to talk about what I've been reading since the beginning of the month, because I did a video last week, but it was a live video, and I don't know how many of you watched it. So I'll mention briefly the books that I've been reading since the beginning of the month, and it's not that many, because I've been spending so much time thinking about what I want to read and writing down what I want to read and planning my book journal and catching up on things that I should have finished in December that I didn't, that I haven't actually been reading that much. But I finished some things. So far, since the month has started, I've finished 4 books. About halfway through the 5th book. So I'll chat briefly about them. So the first book that I finished in the month, was Matilda by Roald Dahl, which was delightful. It was, you know, Matilda is about a girl who's, she's a kid, she's a toddler, I think, when the story starts, but she's around 5. Is she around 5 for most of the story? And she's going to school. And she's an autodidact. Like, she's really, really talented, really, really gifted in being able to read. Like, no one has taught her, but she's read more books, more off the classics list than I have. So I love that there's a list of books that she like goes to the library and just like pours through. And some of them are on my TBR right now, and I'm not 5. So I should have read all the books that Matilda has read, but I haven't. But yeah, it was a really great book about a kid who has a gift, and some of it can be explained, but how she uses it is really delightful, and she tries to fix things in her life, fix injustice that's happening to her and to other people. And yeah, it's wonderful, and you should read it because it's a children's book. It's also really, really great. So I want to read more of Roald Dahl, and I no longer have a physical copy because I returned it to the library. So yeah, Matilda. And I love that the cover is a little girl perched on top of a stack of books, because that's how I've always pictured myself as a child. The next book that I finished was Glory by Novalu Bulawayo. Was that the second book that I finished? And this was a carryover because I was reading this in December, and we were buddy reading this with Heidi and Patrice and Doris and Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. I really liked this. At the end, I really liked it. It's about a fictional Zimbabwe, as we're following a change in government, changes in the government, and how it impacts the people in the administration, but also how it impacts the overall country. and the characters are animals, and how they are as animals, their natural animal tendencies help them to fulfill their roles as it relates to the plot. So there are some really sad moments because we're reading about revolution, and quite often revolution requires great sacrifice. There's some really moving bits in this book, and so I love that the author incorporates some kind of traditional African storytelling with supernatural mentions, supernatural references, and also a lot of modern elements. So really like this. And yes, so I finished that, and then I read Brown Girls by Daphne Palasi Andreades, and this one is set in Queens, New York, and we're reading about brown girls. Brown girls meaning girls of color, women of color, the lives that they start off with. Some of them as immigrants, some of them daughters of immigrants who have brought their aspirations to these United States and put all their hopes and dreams on the lives and the future of their children, and a little bit about how that creates a disconnect with the parents, and how these two generations kind of bridge that divide, or whether they can. Also, I love that this book is written in second person, so we're reading about a multiplicity of experiences. The author is this complex, I'm sorry, not the author, the narrator is this complex representation of multiple lives, multiple possibilities. And so she writes about some of us would do this and some of us do that, and it was really great. I love that she with that kind of style she explores a lot of different ideas, like girls who grow up to marry white men, white boys. She calls them white boys because they're girls and boys, right? So she talks about what it looks like when the two when two people from very different backgrounds have these interracial relationships, the experience sometimes of the brown girl trying to fit in, and how she feels, how she could feel, how she may be made to feel, and how it impacts her life and her choices. There's the representation of same gender relationships or same gender interests that aren't pursued because of the taboo in a lot of immigrant cultures. So yeah, there's a lot that I love about this book. So I thought throughout most of it that I was going to give it a 4-star rating, but at the end I gave it a 5-star. So huge props to Penguin Random House, the publishers, for sending me this book, because I loved it, and I'm going to be chatting about this for a while because that's what I do. And then I finished ebook. I had to buy a Kindle version of this book. So yeah, I'm still doing the challenge of reading 25 books from my shelf, which I looked it up, guys. I looked up what I said. I said that the challenge would start in January. So even though I read some books from my shelves in December, I'm not counting those. The challenge started on January 1st. So far, the only book that I have read that I owned would be this one. So not doing so great, but I did recognize that I had made this shelf right here. It's another little detour, right? Because we have to take the scenic route as we go on trips. This stack right here are 10 books that I had culled from my shelves. I said that I wanted to read those books soon, starting on January 1st. So I'm going to be working from this pile. We're going to call this an active TBR pile. Not to be confused with the TBR list that I showed you that's now living on the top tier of my book cart. Not to be confused again with the books that I need to read or on haul by the end of December, that are still scattered elsewhere on the shelves. So what I'm saying is I have lots of books to read. So let's just hurry up with this one so we can get back to reading. So the next book that I bought this one. And remember, one of the caveats of the read before you buy challenge is that you can buy a book if you need it to participate in a group discussion and you can't otherwise get the book for free. So I tried. This is a classic, modern classic, I guess. It was published in published in 1921. And I tried to get a copy from my library, but my library did not have a copy that I could get in time to start my buddy read. So I bought a Kindle download of The Girls by Edna Ferber, and this only cost me $3. So I bought a book in January. I bought a book. I don't buy a lot of Kindle downloads. I used to get a lot of ebooks from my library when I had my New York Public Library card. That has expired, and I need to find some time to actually go into the library to renew it. So that will happen at some point. So for now, I can only get physical copies from my library here in Queens. So I could not get a copy of The Girls by Edna Ferber, is what I'm saying. So I bought it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot more than my buddy readers. So I was buddy reading it with Columbus and Rosalie. Hi guys, if you're watching. The story follows three generations of the women in a family. We're reading about the grandmother and her sister, and the sister's daughters, two daughters, one of whom is unmarried and one who is married, and that married sister's her child. So we're kind of following the three unmarried women. So the older woman who is in her 70s, her niece who is unmarried, as well as her grandniece who is a teenager when we meet her. She's like 18 or 19 years old. So of course she's also unmarried. So we're reading about 5 women, but really following the 3 unmarried women in the family. And so we're seeing like the differences in experiences across the generations. And it's really interesting because there are 2 wars being mentioned. So the grandniece, the 18 or 19-year-old, like her boyfriend goes off to fight in World War I, but her great aunt, the septuagenarian, she remembers when her boyfriend went off to fight in the Civil War. And so while there were some racist attitudes, I also thought about it that the septuagenarian, is that how you pronounce that word? If they're in Chicago, then I'm assuming that her boyfriend went off to fight for the Union side, right? So they weren't racist altogether. I don't know. But like I said, the book is over 100 years old, and you could see some kind of dated things, but there were places where it felt really forward thinking. Like, I love the fact that while these women had romantic interests, that they were also really pursuing their own fulfillment, their own lives, their own dreams, living the best of the life that they could, whatever the hands that were dealt to them. And so there were men in the story, but they also felt like props at some point. And it's true, like the focus was on the women, these strong women, strong personalities. And so I was really intrigued by the author, who I felt like at the time this was probably a standout book in terms of her representation of women. So I really loved that. Really, really enjoyed that. So I gave that a solid 4-star rating when I was done. And so yeah, 4 stars for my 4th book. So I am now currently reading Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. You guys will be proud of me. So far, all the books that I have been reading have been on my TBR. But don't worry, it goes south, way, way south after this. So I'm reading this and I'm really, really intrigued. We are following a 12-year-old boy named Bird who is Asian American. And we are reading about a slightly futuristic America where a pact, which seems to be some bastardization of the Patriot Act. Pact. Anyway, this act has been passed because of things that have happened with the United States economy, I think, being affected by China. And so we're reading about this kind of dystopic society, still American society, where children are being forced to suffer the consequences of their parents either being Asian themselves or siding with Asians. It's really, really interesting. And I love this cover. So I'm a little past halfway, and I'll probably finish that today because I'm really into it. And that will be my 5th book, and I'll tell you about it when I'm done. So those are the books that I've been reading. 5 books, all from my January TBR. I am so proud of myself. But here's where it goes south. So I'm going to share with you now some books that have come to me. Some books that have come to me that I have no words except to say I have to start reading this. So this is Karen from the future. I was going to add a book haul to this video. Well, I did add the book haul, but when I was trying to edit the video, it was just too long. So we're going to save the book haul for part 2 of this video. So we're going to just say bye for now right here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your take on them was, and let me know what you started reading in 2023. What was the first book that you read in 2023? Like, were you intentional about choosing a specific book to read? I know Sarah over at Hardcover Hearts, she mentioned that she reads the same book every year. It's her first book, 84 at Charing Cross Road, which I thought was delightful when I read it last year. So let me know, what was your first read of the year? Like I said, mine was Matilda, a kid's book, because I just feel like more children's book reading is going to be in my near future. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. We'll be back soon with another video, and I hope you join me for it. Until then, happy reading. Bye.